A very good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the IIM November 2023 webinar. Today, we shall be having a very important topic to discuss. And to facilitate today's presentation is one of our distinguished fellow member, a member of the IIM USA chapter by the name Alan. Alan is the founder of Deep Analysis in the US. He is a co-author of Amazon bestseller, that is Practical Artificial Intelligence and Enterprise Playbook. Alan is currently a board member of the AIIM International in the United States of America. And like I mentioned earlier, he is the founder of Deep Analysis in Boston, USA. Alan actually has several feathers and he occupies quite a number of positions in different organizations. And he has been a friend of the Institute for a very long time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, over a decade now. And being a distinguished fellow of our institute, Alan has volunteered to facilitate today's webinar, which is happening today, the 16th day of November 2023. So without taking too much of our time, it's already a minute past 7 p.m. I want to invite Alan to share his screen while we kick off with the webinar. Alan, if you're there, kindly share your screen and you have the floor. I believe you do justice to the introduction by the time you commence with the presentation. Thank you all. I wish us all a wonderful session.
Sorry, there was just clicking a number of buttons. And welcome, thank you for the lovely introduction. I hope you can see my slides. Can you just confirm that you can?
Yes, we can, sir.
You can, excellent, wonderful. Okay, well, today I'm going to be talking to you about artificial intelligence, and it's a big topic, and we definitely can't cover everything in the time we have, but I hope I can give you something to think about, to maybe work upon, but at least to think about at the end of this session, because it's probably the most important, well, it's not probably, it is the most important technology advance in the world of information management, certainly in my lifetime. And that sounds like a grand statement, and I'm going to have to justify it, because in the world of tech, we're always making grand statements and then not following through on them, right? So what I really want to do with you today is explain to you a few things. And I say to explain to you a few things because there really are only a few things that, as information managers, you need to know about artificial intelligence. You don't need to have advanced mathematics. You don't need to have a degree in data science or computer science. Other people have those qualifications and those skills. You have the skills of information managers, and those skills are absolutely vitally important. So that's sort of what I want to go through today with you. Just a little bit. I won't spend too much time on this, but so I'm what's called an industry analyst. And to be frank with you, most people don't know what an industry analyst is. So if I'm at a party and people ask my job, it's hard work explaining. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but basically we research the technology market. Now, when I say the technology market, I mean specifically in my case and my company's case, information management, right? So whether that's document management, records management, digital asset management, and all the associated processes and automations that go around that world, that's what we focus on. So obviously hence a great interest with IIM and AIM here in the US, etc., because this is our world. And if I can put it another way, I'm one of you guys, right? We're all in this together. And so we research the market. But what is a market? Well, it's a number of things. One is the technology, and we spend a lot of time on that. What we're looking at is where things are going, right? What's happening, what's really going to work and what's not. Because in the world of technology, a lot of it doesn't work, or it works, but it never really takes off. It never really becomes very popular. So that's our job, really, is to identify the bits that are important. And also we do a lot, which is not so relevant for today's call, but we do a lot on the financial side of it, sort of, to be blunt about it, where's the money? Right? That's great technology. You're never going to make any money selling it. And now that's interesting. You might make a lot of money selling that. So our consulting, our advisory services, we work with companies as big as Microsoft and IBM and Oracle, down to little startups around the world. So that's sort of our thing. But finally, just on this slide, I wanted to point out two things. One, I'm not here to sell you anything today. I just want to be absolutely clear about that. I'm here to share some insights and thoughts and hopefully I use a grand word, education, with you all. That's what I'm here to do, nothing more. And but two things, on our website, everything isn't free because we couldn't stay in business if it was, but we try and make as much free as possible. So do check out deep-analysis.net. There's a lot of free stuff there. And it's all about information management. So please make use of that resource. So that's sort of, us as a company, and me, well, I go right back. So I started my career very long time ago in the oil and gas industry. I was a document controller, as the phrase was back then, which involved records management. And then the day came when I wanted to move on, and by accident, to be honest with you, I had an interview with an analyst company. I didn't know what an analyst company was, but they wanted to interview me, so I was happy. And they couldn't find anybody else who knew anything about document management and workflow, so I got the job. So that changed my life, basically. And 25 years on, I'm still an industry analyst. And yes, that's our book. I'm going to be frank with you. The book's a little bit dated now because artificial intelligence moves at a fast pace. However, it's, I'm not trying to sell you a copy here. We don't make any money really from this, but hey, it's not bad. It's not bad, and it's a pretty good introduction to the topic. So that's me, and that's the company. But the big thing is here, if you're working, whether you're in Africa, whether you're on another continent, doesn't matter. If you're working with documents and records, the first question is, well, what's this got to do with me? What has AI got to do with me? And I did a webinar for records managers in Canada just very recently. And this was sort of the big question there. I mean, because their reality will be pretty similar to yours, I imagine. And that reality is that, let's say you work for a government organization or a big corporation. Nobody files anything where they're supposed to. There's stuff everywhere. We've got stuff, and I'm using the word stuff as a sort of technical term, right? Documents, PDFs, paper documents, whatever. It's all over the place. Yeah, it's supposed to be managed properly. It's probably not. And we've got loads of it going back years, decades. That's the world you work with in typically as an information or records manager. So what on earth has AI got to do with me, right? Well, everything. That's the simple answer. Everything. It's got everything to do with you. Because up to 10, I'd put 10 years on here. It's maybe a little bit less, about 8 years. But up to 10 years ago, all artificial intelligence, there were exceptions, but pretty much all artificial intelligence, the investment, the tools, the interest was all focused on the world of structured data. So, right, the stuff that is in neat rows and columns in a database. So maybe a list of voters and addresses, or financial data, or whatever, right? Stuff in databases that is neatly structured in rows and columns. About 10 or 8 years ago, the light bulb went on at companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon that, well, people keep saying that 80% of the data we pay to store is unstructured. It's not sitting neatly in rows and columns in a database. It's in the form of PDFs, it's in the form of images, it's in the form of Word documents, or who knows, right? A whole range of different things. And what if we could do something with that? Because at the moment, all we can really do with those files is put them in folders, right? And if we've got good metadata, if we've tagged things properly, then we should be able to hopefully search and find them. But beyond that, there's not a lot you could do. So a ton of money, and we are talking obscene amounts of money, more money than the gross domestic product of some countries, went into developing primarily two things on this list of acronyms here: OCR, optical character recognition, and NLP. So optical character recognition is sort of self-explanatory. It's the ability to recognize that on this sheet of paper, if I scan it, this is the letter L, not the letter I, not the number 1, to be able to read handwriting, to be able to basically decipher what are these symbols on the page. Now, some people will say we've been able to do that for over 30 years. OCR is not new. Actually, OCR is brand new, because what's happened and has come to market over the past 5 years as a result of these developments is AI-driven OCR. And it is way more accurate, way faster, way better, frankly, in every respect than anything that came before it. We're not talking about 5% better, we're talking about 100% better. It is scarily good. If it's trained properly, and we'll talk about training in a second, but if it's trained properly, if it's implemented properly, to be blunt about it, it doesn't really make many mistakes. There's always going to be an exception, but generally speaking, this is outstanding. Well, if I can extract the characters and the words and the numbers and possibly the drawings and whatever, if I can extract that off a paper or a digital document, well, what can I do with it? Well, here's the thing. It all comes back to language. In our world, typically, not exclusively, but typically it all comes back to language. So in this case, we have this acronym at the top here, NLP, Natural Language Processing. And again, if you think about it, it's sort of self-explanatory. Natural language. What I'm speaking to you here, what you're hearing, what we write, what we share. Doesn't matter about the actual language. It could be English, it could be Swahili, it could be Mandarin Chinese, it doesn't matter, right? But that's the language of humans, if I want to put it that way. And how do you process it? And processing means recognizing that this is a sentence, recognizing that this is a paragraph at a basic level, recognizing that this is a clause in a legal document, recognizing that this sentence here relates to 3 paragraphs down that sentence there. In other words, it decodes the actual meaning of the document. And there's been massive advances in NLP. I won't go through all of the others here, but just so you know, NLU, natural language understanding, which is, if you like, something to do with NLP. In other words, I understand what this document actually is and contains. And then natural language generation and generative AI, which is, you know, generating text, generating words, generating information. And for what it's worth, and I'll just finish on that last bullet point for now, generative AI is the flavor of the day. I don't know what's popular in West Africa. I have absolutely no idea, but I do know the rest of the world's very, very excited about Taylor Swift. So generative AI is sort of like Taylor Swift at the moment. It's the big star of the show. The important thing to remember is that's not the only thing that's going on here. And as information managers, it's not even that important. The basic OCR NLP stuff, which we're going to get into, is the important stuff for us. Now, I said at the end of that, the important stuff for us. Now, us being information managers, right? We're information managers. This is the information management community. And that's quite broad. And I don't know the individual focus points of the people on the webinar today, but that could be knowledge management, that can be document management, that can be document control in engineering, that can be records management, lots of different flavors of it, if you like, but it's all information management. So AI for us, well, here's the thing. If you think your organization is never going to embrace it, if you think you can't afford it, if you think you don't want it, if you don't approve of it, and you don't like it, you don't like the idea of it, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be getting it whether you like it or not. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's just a statement of fact. So if your organization uses Microsoft, for example, and, you know, Microsoft, by the way, from a market standpoint in information management, is about 80% of the entire market. They are that dominant. So if you use Microsoft products at some time soon, or in the next 5 years, whatever timescale, at some point, you are going to encounter AI because it's standard. It's built in. They give it to you. It's part of the deal. You don't really have a choice in the matter. And if you're a Google workspace, or you use Google Apps as a cheaper option, or you prefer the idea of Google, for what it's worth, by the way, deep analysis, we have a foot in both camps. Microsoft is actually quite a good client of ours, but we actually run our business on the Google Workplace. So, you know, whatever you choose, you are going to have AI. It is coming. You don't have a choice in it. That's happening. Now, that's good and bad, right? We should have a choice. We should have a say. We should have a lot of things, but in life, we don't often. So it's coming. Is it for free? No, of course it's not. Nothing's for free. So your organizations are probably going to pay a bit more, whether they like it or not, but they are going to be using AI. Now, I used the phrase us for the information management community, and I said they are going to be paying for it, they being your organization. And here's where the challenge and the opportunity comes. Your organization will be using AI at some point. It will. That's a given. Okay, how are they going to use it? Are they going to use it well, or are they going to use it badly? Is it going to be a success? Is it going to be a failure? Well, the answer to those two questions, you're the ones in control of that. Information managers are going to control whether it works or it doesn't, whether it's successful or it's not. Our industry, our jobs are changing. So that doesn't mean everything we've learned in the past is gone. Far from it. Far from it. If you have been trained in information management and you understand things like tagging, classification, retention schedules, maybe you know what a taxonomy is, maybe you even know how to build a taxonomy, I don't know. All of those basic, what we might call library skills, version control, right? Check in, check out, access controls. phrases which I'm sure many of you on the line are very familiar with. Those are critical skills when it comes to deploying AI within your organization. So just to take a little step back here and put things into context, IDP, so if you hadn't noticed already, the tech industry really loves three-letter acronyms, okay? And they're always changing. IDP stands for Intelligent Document Processing. So in other words, using AI to process documents. But this is sort of a summary in a way of what I was trying to say before, but at a slightly more technical level. Unstructured documents, whether they be paper, whether they be Word documents, whatever they are, they're called unstructured. That's unstructured data. So what does intelligent document processing do? It makes sense of it and it extracts the bits it wants into structured data and puts it into a database for AI to make sense of. So a simple example here would be something like an invoice, right? An invoice is an invoice is an invoice. Now, all invoices do exactly the same thing as any other invoice. They might all look different. They might have different values on them. They might, you know, be physically different, even in the sense that, you know, one's 40 pages long and in this format, and one's 1 page was knocked up on a Word document. It doesn't matter. They're all invoices. So IDP AI does a really good job of that, because it knows that the only importance of an invoice is to extract an invoice number. It's to extract who it's from, who it's going to, what it relates to, how much, dates, etc. You know, there's a certain amount of data in there which is essential. And the rest of it, the formatting, isn't essential, right? So it extracts those structured bits of data. But if we think of the broader world of document records management, what we're typically faced with, always faced with, I would say, is this big challenge around metadata, around tagging and classifying files, right? Is this, does it belong to this person? What date was it created on? Where should it go? How long should we keep it for? There's lots and lots of different possibilities, right? Tagging and classification. It takes a lot of time. It's very costly. It's difficult. And I'm sure you all know this. I really doubt anybody's going to disagree with me, but, you know, put it into the chat if you do. That's cool. End users really don't like doing this. There are very few end users anywhere on the planet that want to flag something as being a record and tell you how long it should be kept for, or tell you its importance or whatever. They don't like doing that, right? Nobody's ever wanted to do that. It's time consuming, it's costly, it's difficult. Well, with AI, it's not. With AI, you have a high level of accuracy. You can scale to anything. So if you've got 100,000 documents, that's nothing. If you've got 1 million documents, nothing. If you've got 10 million, nothing. If you have 100 million, nothing. And I'm giving you these numbers because one of the people I've spoken to in the not too distant past is a big insurance company. You know, they're using AI now to go through, migrate and tag 30 billion files, like 30,000 million files. How could you possibly do that manually? You couldn't. It's not doable, right? It is doable with AI. Now, when you get to 30 billion, you're talking of a lot of money. This is not a cheap job to do. But in most organizations, the scales aren't quite at that, right? So in other words, we could add another thing here, cost, right? Using AI to help you tag and classify documents at scale accurately is actually a big cost saver. And that's one of the big use cases for it as we move forward. So just to ground us a little bit here, I've used the term artificial intelligence a lot of times. What is artificial intelligence? Well, in the AI world, if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. So I'm just going to try and narrow it down to the most basic answer that you could ever give, and almost nobody can really argue that it's wrong, Okay, it's a computer system that learns, and that's so important to grasp, right? It learns. Well, just like a child or just like an adult taking on a new job or skill set, it learns, which means on day one, it knows nothing, doesn't know anything. On day two, it knows a bit. You know, hopefully by 6 months to a year in, it knows what it's doing, right? We'd hope. So it's a learning curve. AI goes through a learning curve. It has to be trained and it has to learn. And over time, it gets better and better and better and better. So if its accuracy rate is 60 to 70% after 3 months, there's a good chance that by the end of the first year, it's 98% or 97%, right? It's a big, it learns. And that's important to grasp. Here's the thing, what does it learn with, right? What's its learning materials? What are the books it's drawing from, right? You know, where is this criteria? Where's this curriculum? Where's the stuff, right? What does it learn on? Your data, right? Your data, that's what it learns on. It trains on your data. So why does it do that? Well, because it needs to understand your specific needs. Now, you can go out there and buy and use an AI system that's been trained on other people's data. So, for example, invoice processing, which I mentioned before. You might think your invoices are unique, but they're not really. An invoice is an invoice, right? So that there are cases where you can certainly use something that's been trained on more public data. But for real accuracy and compliance and security and value for money, frankly, you will train AI on your data, right? Your organization's data. Now, that's a big deal. Yeah. So that's a big deal. You really do have to sorry. There we go. So yeah, it will train on your data. And it will do that at a really fast pace. And this is one of the first things you might have challenges with within your organization. Nobody wants to give it access to your data. Or, and can be both, your data isn't in particularly good shape. So there's a phrase we often use in AI, which is garbage in, garbage out. If you feed it with poor quality data, guess what's going to come out the other side? Garbage answers to your questions, right? It's not actually intelligent. So let's just pick up on that point very quickly. Artificial intelligence is not actually intelligent. Right? There is no, it's absolute nonsense. Okay, it's not intelligent. It doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't know good from bad. It doesn't know any of those things, and it doesn't understand broad concepts. It's not intelligent, right? It's trained to spot patterns. It's trained to answer very specific questions. And in your organization, you want to train it on your data so that it understands your world, your needs, your questions, and can give you the answers you need, right? So this is actually a really big topic that we could spend all day on, how you train things. But I just quickly sort of wanted to go through AI itself. And by the way, the next few slides, I do not expect anybody here to read them or even be particularly interested in them. They're purely illustrative. And anybody who wants a copy of these slides is more than welcome to have a copy of these slides. So I'll send them over to you. But the point I want to make now is that AI isn't a thing. There is no one AI. One is not better than the other. AI is a concept. It's a whole range of computer models. It's a whole range of algorithms. It's a whole range of different approaches. Some AI tools have no bearing other than they learn and they train on data. Other than that, they have nothing in common. They have absolutely nothing in common. So there's a range of different approaches. Some of these AI approaches are there to help classify, right? How to classify. That's what they do. That model only does that. It does classification, nothing else. It does classification. Does this squiggle look like an H? Is it a J, right? So, you know, handwriting recognition. It classifies, it goes through and it decides from all the options the best bet. And it does that. Others do clustering. So this might say, well, based on, and by the way, there's lots of different clustering models. This is K-means is just one particular example. There's lots of different clustering models out there. But for example here, well, I've looked at this contract. It says the AI, doesn't actually say anything. It's not intelligent. But the AI system will look at a contract and it will say, well, based on everything I've read in here, I believe this should be classified as X or Y. And because it's classified as X or Y, then these particular rules and workflows and whatever should be attached to it. So there's different tools for different jobs, right? There's no one AI out there. And again, there's no one that's better than the other because they're all designed to do very specific jobs. You don't, as a buyer or user, as a records manager and information manager, you don't really need to know this stuff. What you do need to know, though, is that it's a big, broad, messy, complex world, okay? So whatever anybody's trying to sell you or explain to you, take it with a pinch of salt, okay? Because what's a fit for one person is a different fit for another. And AI does do some things incredibly well. It really does, particularly math-based things. So literally in today's newspaper here in the US, by the way, I'm based in Philadelphia in the US, literally in today's newspaper, Google has told the world how great DeepMind, its AI system, is at predicting weather patterns. And no doubt it does a very, very good job of it, right? Because it's taking structured data, it's doing heavy math against it at a speed humans couldn't or previous computers couldn't. So it's good at that. It's good at that, and it'll probably get better over time. There are other things where it's not so good at, right? So if we think about legal documents, it's one thing to say that this is a lease and be 100% accurate that it is indeed a lease. It's another thing to say this is a contract. Great, wonderful. AI will do that well. But the implications of that lease, or if somebody were to break the terms of it, again, AI could help identify areas in it that could be a problem. But now we're into really deep human language and interpretation of law and case law and everything else. No, it's out of its depth at this point, right? So it can help with many tasks. It can't do everything. It really can't. So when you see, news that's telling you that AI is going to be more smart or more intelligent than human beings, I don't believe it. I think it's complete nonsense. There is a flip side to that. In some aspects, in some certain tasks, yes, it's going to be much better than human beings. So for example, if we use an AI-based document processing system, IDP, and we use that and replace somebody who's manually key entering. So I mean, they have a piece of paper at the side of them or another screen, and they're reading that and they're typing that information into another screen, okay? AI will do that better than the human being. Doesn't matter how diligent, doesn't matter how long that person's been doing it, it will do a better job, right? It will make fewer mistakes, it will do it faster. What it won't do is replace the experience of that person, where that person may, when on sheet of paper 50, say, that's not right, and raise something to their supervisor, right? AI doesn't know if something's wrong. Doesn't know. Okay, it's, you asked me to type this stuff in, I'm typing it in for you. So again, we've got to find that balance. So at the moment, the news is dominated by stuff around generative AI. And some of you who follow tech or just follow the news may have heard of OpenAI and ChatGPT in particular. So ChatGPT is free. If you have not played with it, I highly recommend you do. If you have a computer and you have an internet connection, go and sign up. It's free. Try it. ChatGPT. Ask it any stupid question you want, right? Ask it a serious question. Say, could you summarize these meeting notes? Say, could you summarize this? Could you write a press release for me? Could you help me with my school essay? I don't know. You can ask it lots of questions. Now, you'll be surprised probably at two things, maybe three. You'll be surprised. The first thing you'll be surprised about is just how fast and damn good it is. It's really impressive. The second thing you'll be surprised is, well, it doesn't always know the answer. Okay, because if it doesn't have access to information that can answer the question, it can't answer the question. Okay, so that's something we could possibly come back to as a topic. But the third thing is, if you watch very carefully and you listen very carefully, if you like, to the answers it gives, you are going to be surprised at how often it makes mistakes. Now, by the way, it is really impressive. I'm not trying to knock it here. ChatGPT is indeed, as Bola has just said on the chat, right, is incredible. It is, but it makes mistakes. So I was at a conference earlier this year in Texas, here in the US, and just before, I mean, honestly, like 30 minutes before I got on stage, just for a joke, actually, I went on ChatGPT and said, "Right, give me a biography of Alan Peltzschap," and it, within a second or two, up it came. I cut and pasted it into my slide, and I went on stage and gave my presentation. And I said to people 30 minutes before, I asked ChatGPT that, I thought knew nothing about me. Turns out it knows a lot about me. And it wrote this biography, and everybody was so impressed. Until I pointed out that it said I was the author of two books I personally never heard of. So I definitely didn't write them, because I'm sure I would have remembered. Okay. There was a couple of other minor errors in there. And here's the thing. ChatGPT is very, 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 very good. However, one of its biggest strengths is in being convincing. It has been designed to be convincing. So when I saw the biography that ChatGPT had written for me, first, I was very impressed that it did it at all and that it did it so well. But the 20% in there that was errors, I noticed immediately. Why? Because I'm Alan Peltzschap. I know. But when I showed it to a group of people, nobody else noticed. Why? Because the mistakes didn't say I had written a book on, I don't know, the history of Bollywood or something, right? No, it said I had written a book on Microsoft SharePoint, and it was convincing. So what ChatGPT is being designed to do, it really isn't quite sure. It'll just think of something and come up with something and make it convincing. That's a problem. Okay, that's a big problem, a really big problem. It will quote books that don't exist. It will quote statistics from history that never happened. Okay. Now, does it do it all the time? No, it doesn't. It does it just occasionally, but just occasionally for what we would call enterprise use, for serious business use, means no, it doesn't work. Okay, that doesn't work. But why does it make those mistakes? It makes those mistakes because ChatGPT runs on top of what we call a large language model. A large language model, in this case, is built by OpenAI, which is funded by Microsoft. Now, how OpenAI was built was essentially they went out there and they scraped everything they possibly could, right? Everything they possibly could from the internet, right? Everything they could get their hands on, including copyrighted material. So that's another issue. But they didn't know what was right and what was wrong. They didn't know what was accurate and what was inaccurate. It's just stuff. It's just information. So again, there's no intelligence here. ChatGPT is being told this is all of equal value. So it will pull stuff left, right, and center. It will do that. Now, the same technology, generative AI, that creates content, if it's not trained on that big, massive stuff, and instead it's trained on a much smaller set of accurate data, so your organization's data, your country's data, whatever, well, it can be really very, 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 very accurate indeed, and wonderful tool. And that's, by the way, for those who are interested, that's really where things are heading, right? So the wonder of ChatGPT is there. It ain't going around. It's not disappearing. It's going to be there. But its use in the organization. So in Microsoft's case, the ChatGPT-like thing is called Copilot. And the theory is, and hopefully the practice, it's all still very new, is that will train on your data. It's specific to you. It's secure to you. So amazing technology, but where its weak point is quality of data. So garbage in, garbage out, right? So if we get rid of the garbage and we just give it high quality stuff, the world's a wonderful thing. Most AI, though, is on this other side, predicting, right? It predicts. Is this a record? If it's a record, what kind of record? If it's that kind of record, what's the subcategory? And if there's a subcategory, how long is the retention period? And if that's the retention period, then I can automatically apply it. I mean, it can do lots of things. So lots of rules, if that makes sense, predicting around specific tasks and predefined rules. And it does that really, really well. So I sort of touched on this earlier. I'm sort of keeping high on the time here, but I touched on this earlier. But the other big thing I would love all of you to walk away from is whether you're doing information management manually or you have a computer system. Most of you probably have a computer system of some description. And I'm going to be careful what I say here, but I want to say this from the heart. There is a perception that everybody here in the US or in the UK or whatever, they're running on the latest tech. It's not true. It's really not true. Trust me, there's a lot of information managers who are running 1990s Access databases. So the world's all over the place. So don't worry about that. But if you're using some kind of computer system and you assumed you're going to be using something in the future, there's two things you need to know. If you were going to buy new records or document management system, this is the sort of process you would go through. I've oversimplified it, but this is the process you would go. You design it. You'd say, well, I need it to do this. I need it to do that. Okay, I'll configure it this way. Maybe you do some development to make sure it meets your specific requirements, your very specific requirements. You test it and you deploy it. Hey, voila, everybody's happy and it's switched on, it's running, and you walk away, right? That's a typical IT life cycle. We can argue that that's not quite how it should be, but that's how it is in the real world. Now, when we get to AI, it is not like that at all. It is a completely different life cycle. So remember, it learns, so it starts off with next to nothing. It's a slight exaggeration because if you were to buy AI for records management or document management, it's probably being pre-trained to an extent, right? They'll have spent a lot of money and time pre-training it so that it at least gets out of the box and has a good start. It knows roughly what it's doing. But from that moment on, from deploying it, you will continue to monitor it, optimize it, pick it up on its mistakes, which means it will retrain itself again. You'll test it again. That cycle will never, ever end. That doesn't mean it's a 24/7 job, but there has to be humans in the loop. There have to be humans there checking it and monitoring it and making sure that it isn't getting things wrong, that it's getting things right. And when it does get things wrong, that somebody steps in and corrects it and says, no, 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 no. When that happens, you do this. And then it will learn. And next time around, it will hopefully get it right. So again, that's sort of where we're at with these two great big differences, right? AI is a long-term thing. Now that can be a couple of hours a week or a couple of hours a month, or it can be, you know, every day. It depends on the scale of it. So I'm going to sort of wrap up here because we're sort of 45 minutes in, and I want to sort of finish off on sort of hopefully a bit of a rallying call for the information management world here. So I've talked a lot about AI in general terms. One of the big things I've stressed is it needs good data and it needs to be carefully controlled and managed, right? So to ensure accuracy and to make sure AI works and delivers the value it can promise and that it is actually capable of delivering on, somebody somewhere needs to be managing, structuring and feeding the system with high quality data. Somebody needs to define requirements. Somebody needs to ensure that it's compliant, right? That it's not pulling up sensitive, secret, personally identifiable information. I don't know, right? It's whatever. You've got to ensure safety and privacy. You've got to make sure that the wrong people don't have their hands on it. You've got to do a lot of things. And a key one is somebody has to manage policies, right? And this is a great opportunity for information managers. So what is the policy for AI's usage? What is it trying to achieve? What is your organization trying to achieve? Now, as a records manager, you may simply be trying to ensure that you're compliant and that documents that shouldn't be here should now be over there and maybe disposed of. Your IT department is probably most sensitive and concerned about two things. One, well, beyond ensuring the IT system is running properly, they're most concerned about things like cybersecurity. But honestly, what are they most concerned about? Costs. How much it's costing. That's what they're most concerned about, because most IT departments are struggling to pay for everything the world over. Here's an opportunity to tie all of those policies together for information.
You're welcome to the esteemed grade of fellow. Actually, this compares.
I didn't hear the question. Was that a question? I'll assume it wasn't. Okay, so here's the opportunity, right, to tie the policies together. If you're a records manager and you can say to the IT department, did you know 60% of the stuff you're paying to be in storage, online storage, you don't need to do that. With my help, with AI, we can reduce that. We can get rid of that stuff because you shouldn't have it in the first place. And if anything, at best, it should be in cheaper storage. There's ways you can work together here. But the bottom line is no information managers, no AI, right? It's your job to balance the technology, the AI, with your human expertise, your human skill set, your knowledge of your organization, your knowledge of information management, right? So you're validating. So you're both validating and informing, right? So AI saying, oh, did you know these 1,500 sensitive documents have never been accessed in the last 5 years, and they're sitting in a place where anybody could get access to them? No, I did not know that, but we should do something about that, right? And likewise, you can inform AI that, no, that's not right. I want you to do it this way. It's a two-way thing. It's not about AI replacing people's jobs. I will be honest and say in the broader world, AI absolutely will replace a lot of people's jobs. That is a harsh reality. I don't like it, but it's true. Information managers and records managers, I'll be blunt about it. I don't know what you're doing wrong if your job is replaced by AI, because AI can't work without you. Yours is the skill set that is in most demand and will be in increased demand over the next 5, 10, 15 years. There is an absolute shortage, a desperate shortage of expert information managers, a desperate shortage, right? So you guys are lucky, right? You guys are lucky. There's a lot of stuff coming. I'm not going to talk about all of this, but to me, there's one of the biggest things here, though, is that when we look at why people spend on tech, why people are interested in automating things and using AI, it's because they want to reduce the number of errors, right? Errors are costly. A misfiled document is very, very costly. A poorly processed document is costly. A contract that shouldn't have been approved is very, very costly. So AI can really help reduce the number of errors. But just a quick summary here then. You don't need to be an AI expert. I don't think anybody, I mean, if you guys want to read our book or spend some time on Google or get yourself up to speed or take an online course, good for you. I think that's a terrific thing to do. But you don't need to know how the engine works, okay? I have a car here in Philly. I'm going to be honest with you. If I open up the hood of that car, I have no idea what's inside. I don't know. It's an engine. That's about the end of it. What I know is the steering wheel, the gear stick, the brake, and the accelerator. Okay, that's all I need to know. I need to know how to drive it. It's the same with AI. All you need to know is how to drive it and maintain it. You don't need to know anything else. The second thing you need to really be clear about, though, is without accurate data, things will go wrong, right? And pretty much all AI, certainly in the information management world, needs a human in the loop. That's you, right? It needs people assisting them. It doesn't replace people, it assists you. And actually, it's not expensive. The way I started this, or it could be, you can spend a lot of money on it. But if you upgrade to whatever in the Microsoft world or the Google world or many other worlds for that matter, in the next 5 years, you're going to get this pretty much for free. It's just part of the package. So it's not a cost thing. So getting your data sorted and getting it ready to be used, no, that's not necessarily cheap. That's work you guys need to do. And always, always, always test everything with your company, your organization's data before you do anything with AI, right? So on a negative, I'll sort of wrap up on this one. It's a negative and it's a positive, right? It's a call to action, right? Where are we in the conversation as information and records managers? I don't know where we are. We should be somewhere. We should be heralding change. We should be waving the flags. We should be breaking down the barriers. But my heavens, we do seem to be getting left out of the conversation. So this is an opportunity for organizations such as IAM, Armour, it doesn't, beyond that, for us individually, to speak up in our organizations and say, hey, remember me? I know you don't really rate or you think I'm all that important, but I really am, and I think you need to be talking to me because this stuff's coming. Without me, it ain't going to work. So there's an opportunity here to really elevate your own positions and your organizations. And can I say it this way? To do a bit of good, right? There's an opportunity here to really do a bit of good and I don't know about change the world. That's maybe stretching it a little bit, but at least have a bit of an impact. And there's my email address, aps@deepanalysis.net. I say we've got plenty of free stuff on our website. And if any of you've got questions, I mean, we can have some questions here. That's great. But if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. I can't guarantee I know the answer. I don't always know the answer to all the questions, but I promise I will respond and I'll try my best. And with that, I'll take a break, have a glass of water, because I'm starting to lose my voice. And I know it's coming up to 8 o'clock for you guys. And I thank you very much for hanging in there for the past hour. But if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat.
Thank you so much, Alan, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, Alan. I think we have only comments on the chat box. There's only comments. There are no questions. So I think we have 2 questions for the audience. We have 2 questions. So from the 2 questions, we get you get to also know the thoughts, the mindset of the participant. Okay, Alan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we have 2 questions. We're going to put it up for the participants to attend to them. We'll use that to have a deeper insight. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation. It was very practical. It was insightful. It looks very simple, but it's very practical. Yeah. You have made it very.
Yeah, it's very, very, very complex under the covers. But the thing is, honestly, yeah, actually, the principles of using it are actually quite simple.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wait for the 2 questions to come up. Okay, I think we should launch now. Yeah, people are having comments. Okay, so let's get to the 2 questions, please. Please, can we launch the 2 questions on the people on the back end?
Yeah, launching.
All right.
Okay, yeah, we've got just a couple of poll questions here, just for fun, but I hope that they'll sort of give you a little insight into where we're all at.
Yeah, so we use that to look at the insight of everyone. So please, ladies and gentlemen, when the full question pops up, please just attend to it. Then we'll discuss it before we finalize.
Well, whilst we're waiting, I can maybe tell people what the questions are going to be. So I guess, the question is very, very light, but, do you believe AI will have a big impact on you or your organization's work? And then there's another question that, are you
So Alan, there's a question here for you on the chat box.
There is. What is my view on AI and data privacy? It's a really good question, and that's one of the reasons I was stressing throughout to train AI on your data, right? So it's a twofold thing. AI is only as good as the data, right? So if you have big concerns about privacy, compliance, identification of confidential sources, then that's got to be in the data management, right? The AI can't do that for you unless you give it specific rules and say, if this kind of thing is seen, you've got a problem. It's going to be a big discussion, though, moving forward. A really big discussion with data privacy, because here's the thing, most people don't manage their data properly, okay? In the Microsoft world, there's plenty of people out there, plenty of organizations who have 10,000, 20,000 SharePoint instances within one organization. If you were to do an audit, what you would probably find is, and the poll questions have come up, by the way, you would probably find that there is a lot of exposed data there. There's a lot of easy access to a lot of very confidential data. AI could absolutely exploit that. So it's a big concern. And that's why I've been trying to say, great to use it in your organization for very specific controlled tasks with your data, right? And your job, frankly, along with others in your organization, is to ensure that there aren't privacy concerns, because otherwise there will be. I wish I could give you a better answer in the time than that. It's a wonderful question, though. And can blockchain be used in the library? Yeah, I mean, so with blockchains, we could have a webinar on blockchain another day. Blockchain's another big technology for IIM. But most blockchain related documents, the documents are not actually on the blockchain. They're hashed onto a blockchain, if anybody gets what that is. So yes, you can. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you can. As long as you're not trying to change the document in any way. So the two things can certainly work together. And we're getting some poll results in here. Well, so, you know, an overwhelming number of people at this point are saying that AI will have a big impact. I don't know if that's because I've been telling you for the past hour that it's going to have a big impact. But I think at least we're all sort of in agreement. And I think what's super fascinating as the poll results are coming in here is I think this is actually quite wonderful, really, if I'm being honest with you. You know, 54% are you currently using AI in your organization? We've got what have we got in here? 54%. I will tell you, if I ran that poll here in the US, I don't think we'd have a number quite that high. Okay, so, and similarly, do you think you're equipped? And you got 46% there saying yes. That's high, and that's a wonderful thing to see. Most years, not every year, but most years, I actually go to Brazil. I do some work in Brazil, and every year I go down to Brazil and they say, Alan, can you tell me what's all the new and amazing stuff that's coming out of America? And I tell them, and then they sit down and go, yeah, we're already doing that. What about the new stuff? So, you know, I think as a world, we're always looking over our shoulder and thinking everybody's doing things better than we are. No, we're all pretty much in the same boat. And that's just a really cool thing to see, actually. I love this. And I think that's really super encouraging, what's coming through there. And how does somebody improve themselves so that AI doesn't take his job? Listen, AI is going to take jobs. I'm not here to say AI is good or bad, it's right or wrong. I'm personally, I have many concerns about AI. And certainly in the world of manufacturing, AI is taking a lot of jobs. I mean, that's the truth of it. For the world of information management, we're almost the exception to the rule, frankly, because in the future, we're the ones who are in charge of this. I'm not talking about well, yeah, we are the ones in charge, right? Because the people who are in charge of the data, the people who are in charge of supervising it, the people who are in charge of setting the policies, the people who are in charge of monitoring it, they ain't going anywhere. So you, as an information management professional, have, if you play your cards right, you've got a really good time in your career ahead of you. I wish we could say that for everybody else, because we can't. And no, does it mean with AI that there are no boundaries with respect to data protection and privacy? You have to put those boundaries in, right? You're the one who's got to actually set those boundaries. It won't do it otherwise. It doesn't know. It's not intelligent, right? It's just data. It'll process data any which way you ask it to. So you can put in very strict data protection and privacy rules, but you have to do that. When I say you, I don't necessarily mean you personally, but your organization has to do that, right? I think we're running out of time here, but wow, lots of stuff in the chat and a great response on the polls. And it's awesome. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I've enjoyed giving it. And as I said, I gave you my email address at the end. You're all welcome to a set of the slides. And I hope we can continue the conversation between them as over the coming years.
Okay, Alan, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for answering the questions in line with what we have on the pool. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. So thank you so much, Alan. So having said that, I would like to call up on most of our executive council members that are here to please identify themselves. I'll quickly say one or two things before we close this. So after I call upon the Executive Council member of the Institute, we'll have a group photograph. So when it's time, I will call everyone up to turn up their cameras so we can have a picture. So please, I start with Mr. President of the Institute. Please, if you're there, please, can you take over the microphone and introduce yourself, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nagu. Thank you so much, Alan. That was a wonderful presentation. I believe we all have learned today, and lots of knowledge has been shared so far. It's been a great pleasure to be here again in the month of November. We hope when we invite you again, Alan, you will oblige us. You know, I know, like you mentioned, 45 minutes might not really be enough for such an extensive area of technology, talking about AI. So hopefully we might be expanding on this and looking into other areas as it affects data and information management. My name is Ambassador Dr. Ayodeji Wole Edoku. I'm the International President of the Institute of Information Management, and we thank you all for making out time to be part of this month's webinar. Shortly, we'll be announcing the topic for the month of December, and we hope that all will make out time to be part of the December webinar. Thank you once again, Alan. We're grateful. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So if we have the Vice President in the house, I think she would have taken permission. Princess Tiwalade, if she's there, I think. Princess.
I think she was having issues connecting. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So over to Mrs. Faraday, please. I can see you. Mrs. Rhoda Faraday, please. Mrs. Faraday. Was there? I saw her. Mrs. Faraday. Mrs. Rhoda. Hello, Mrs. Rhoda, please, can you unmute yourself? Let's see, let's see.
I think I saw her online.
Yes, she's still online. I just told her to unmute herself. Online. Oh, the mic is not there. Oh, she has to be unmuted, please.
Okay, she's asking to be muted.
Yes, unmute her, please.
I think she should be able to do it from.
No, I
Okay.
think everyone was stopped for unmute her, then she can now unmute herself.
I think it's network issue from our end.
Please, Mrs. Rhoda, you are still muted. Just
Okay. She should try to do it. Okay. I think she should be able to do that. I think she's still having difficulty in unmuting herself. Olad, if you are there, try to unmute Mrs. Faraday, please.
All right, sir.
I think it's a network issue. Mr. Nago, you can proceed and introduce yourself. while we wait for Mrs. Faraday to unmute.
Hello, I think it was the same issue she was having I had before.
Okay,
Because for
maybe
some
she
time
should try.
I've been trying to unmute myself since. I think it just started working now.
Okay.
Then the host
Mrs.
muted
Faraday,
everyone.
please try to unmute again. Let's see.
Miss Friday, can you unmute yourself now? Okay, so all right, so that's not this is already after it. It says it's not working yet. Well, probably having network. Put your mute and
Okay,
unmute yourself.
I think you can proceed and introduce her then.
Yeah, please. Mrs. Rhoda Farrinder is the secretary of the Governing Council of Institute of Information Management for Africa, right?
Okay.
And my humble self is Ambassador Alexander Onago, is also a Governing Council member of the Institute. Okay, so having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your time. Please, can you turn on your cameras? Please, for the slide and for any information regarding the Institute, you need to write to training@im-africa.org. Anything regarding the slide and everything that you need. Alan, we have to send it to the Institute to send to everyone that are members in good standing with the Institute for you to be able to get the slides. So Alan, you have to send to the Institute, which is the normal process. And the Institute across to anyone that is in good standing, any member that is in good standing will get that. For those that are not a member, you will have to write to the Institute training department to get that. Please turn on your cameras for a group photograph. All right, I think we have 2 pages here. Thank you all for participating and attending this webinar. So let me take the first set of pictures. Please, you have to smile for me. So let's get ready. Say cheese. Yes, I have the first page. I've taken the first page. So I'll take the second page now. Second page. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending today's webinar. Thank you for participating, and we keep encouraging every member to participate because that helps you for your continued professional development. So we will be giving free certificates of attendance to all members in good standing, and please be sure to receive that. So thank you so much. I have a very good evening. Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mrs. Faraday, for making our time. And thank you for every fellow members that are here, special senior professional members, associate members, corporate members. Thank you so much. Do have a lovely evening and have a good night. And stay good evening for Mr. Alan. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice.
thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in December.
All right, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye for now.
God willing, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Bye.